and and getting to a point where you are depressed and you are sick of getting all the no's, and then realizing that this is actually where everybody else quits. This is why there's a high turnover rate, and you have to be the motherfucker that's just going to eat that fucking frog and just keep going. When you are tired and physically exhausted and like no one else really believes in you, this is where everybody quits. The most successful people in the world, and they'll all agree to this, anybody who's successful at all, was the person that when everything was going against them, they just kept going. Nobody's any smarter than anybody else. They're just a bunch of retards.
Hello, everybody. This is Jay Long, Diesel Daddy Long, Diesel Daddy Dollins, and Money Murdoch on the mic again for another special session. A special session to get spiritual, to get mental, to get inwards. Welcome, everybody. How y'all doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. Busy day. We got another special guest, which we should have got him out. We got the new dog, Rufus, in the podcast studio today. Say hi, Rufus. Let's see. He's down there in the corner.
He's down there in that
little puppy butt. Oh. Well, Rufus will be joining us for every podcast from here on out.
He is our new lot dog.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, let's unpack what we're going to get into. We've been talking about a lot of spiritual stuff lately, and I kind of like where this one's going to go today. It's what sounds like to be just mental fucking toughness in a way, and let's dive right into it, man.
All right. Tonight we've got some good topics because I know for the last 3 or 4 episodes we have been diving into a more mental, more quantum zone, quantum manifest, being able to embody it, being able to use our imagination, right? Learning how to drop the thought process or that habitual repetitive thought process that tends to drag the vibration down a little bit lower. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that balances that, okay? And that is going to be understanding how to properly project and exemplify the masculine traits or masculinity, right? And now this could fall into many topics such as discipline, motivation, showing up, right? And we're going to get into a little bit of all of that. The other topic that we're going to combine with this topic is the idea and understanding that we need to let go of actions and patterns in our life that have no intent.
Absolutely. And I'd like to call this podcast episode, Don't Be a Bitch.
Don't be a bitch.
Stop being a bitch. Be a better one. Let go of all the bull crap that's in your life. Whatever's holding you back. Whatever, if you're smoking, dude, quit fucking smoking cigarettes. Whatever that is. Whatever discipline you feel like you need to add to your life or take away whatever bad habit, that's kind of what I want to get into today. And I think we see a lot of videos and stuff out there of, positive talk or whatever from Andy Elliott, Grant Cardone, you name any influencer out there, and, how much these disciplines add to your life, but also the spiritual effect of, what is actually going on behind the curtain of what you're actually doing, raising your frequency, setting your goals in the right place. If your goal is only to make money and you're doing these disciplines for this financial monetary gain, how it can really just sabotage, you can be creating these good habits that will just put you in a place in life where you're just going to hate yourself, so.
What do you mean, what are these habits you're talking about, to specifically hate yourself?
People letting go of, let's just say laziness or whatever, getting up and actually doing something. I think a lot of these people see, everybody sees the videos and stuff online of people flashing their Lambos and stuff and saying, get up early, do whatever. And if your goal becomes just only monetary, you'll end up being in a place where you'll ruin every relationship in your life, and the stuff that you have just leaves you even more empty than when you really started. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of that too is what Nick's trying to get off is first we're learning how to let go of the chaotic lack of attention span in all of the different directions of our life. That's where we kind of first came into this deal, right? Then it's learning how to silence the mind and to be able to organize your intent, right? Now what we're talking about is being able to show up physically in this world, right? Comboed with that. Now, if you don't have first the silent mind and the direct intention, right? Well, then we can be moving from a state of lack, which creates desire, right? And so maybe the desire to have Bugattis and big mansions and lots of hot women and to be able to go out and blow a bunch of money and wear $40,000 watches and have all this stuff, right? If we don't have the proper mental training or the proper spiritual positioning, right? Well, then these disciplines that we're about to talk to on a more physical level can just put you in a space of acquiring monetary value, but then not having the love that surrounds it. And so what we're trying to bring in here is the full picture. And through these podcasts, we're going to get into, okay, this is how we act mentally, spiritually. These are the ideas, concepts of how to properly place your intention, how to make goals properly, right? But then we also are going to get into podcast of how to show up to be the best physical version of yourself, how to be able to show up and be the most beautiful person in the room, how to be able to show up with discipline, training, motivation, and consistency. Shout out Micah Harris. Discipline, consistency, and motivation, baby.
Who's that? Micah. It's one of our best friends, man, from back in the day.
Yeah. He loves to stay disciplined, loves to stay consistent, and loves to stay motivated, baby.
What does he do?
So Micah actually, and I could be butchering this a little bit, but in some realm, Micah is one of the top dogs in like the DHS realm.
Yeah, social working.
He's a big dog. He helps many teams, help many people throughout the state acquire things that they need in times of need. It's a very honorable and beautiful job that he does. I'm sure he will be on one of these podcasts with us before we know it.
100%.
So, Dustin, I want to kind of ask you a question here. What does it mean? What does masculinity, discipline, focus, what does that mean to you to be able to show up in that manner?
Well, to me, it is basically coming up with a vision, a defined goal, and then the steps it takes to achieve that goal. And so it's instead of being derailed in things of that nature, I guess I'm actually in the process of creating a new career, a new lifestyle for myself. And so I've been studying and passing the exam to sell health insurance. And so, and so what we've been doing is we've been just setting aside our daily lives and just kind of I've been just kind of observing what are my thought patterns as I'm going through these processes, because it's not like I don't understand the sales, it's not like I don't understand the books, it's not like I don't understand how to create things for my life, but there's these situations that I've created for myself or that I'm going through that I'm starting to recognize this voice that basically is keeping me from achieving all of those goals. And so that's like the insecurities, the doubts, caring about what people think about me. And so throughout the test, it was like thinking about all the times that I had failed tests in the past. And so this time around, when every single one of those doubts arose, I rewrote it with a positive. No, I passed tests on the first time. No, tests come easy to me. And even one of the proctors was like, the test is going to be harder than the practice exams. And even when he said that as a professional giving me advice on how to take the test, I rewrote that. I said, no, the questions are just as easy as the practice exam.
So when someone outside of you told you that this was going to be difficult, instantaneously you were able to internally in your mind overwrite that and envision them saying, oh man, no, this is going to be the easiest test you've ever taken.
Well, right, because that's an example of an exterior thing. It might, okay. You're right. The test is going to be more difficult than the questions. Boom. I just created a new negative thought form. And so because I created that and I take that negative aspect of it, it's like now I'm creating the test that's going to be more difficult than had I not. And so because I refuse to, that's just one example, refuse to say, because that creates a thought form, then this is going to be harder than I anticipated. And so what you don't know is that you are actually going to set up the test ahead of time to be difficult. And so, like, I guess that's the quantum realm and these thoughts and whatever. It's like you allowed an external thing to rewrite the future for you in a sense, because then you're going to get the hard version of the test because that one thought form is saying, oh, this is going to be more difficult. And actually, so I rewrote that, and the questions were almost exactly the same. And
so you already took the test?
Yeah, we passed it, baby. Yeah.
Oh yeah, bro.
Oh yeah.
And so, but along that pattern, it's like more doubts are coming in through. So it's like, I guess an instance in which I'm extremely confident in is the restaurant industry, and I don't even have to think twice about it. I can walk into the building, and I know what needs to be happen from top to the floor because I've been doing it for 20 years. You know, but now I'm in a different environment where I'm creating a new experience for myself, and hopefully, you know, a new monetary gain for myself, like we're talking about. And then the fact that I just use the word hopefully is not definite. And so I think the masculine aspect of things is being definite about what you're wanting and having a vision and how to get there. And so now we're moving on to the next thing, and so I've passed the test and the next requirement. And so I've also been getting in a habit of just thinking of one step at a time. And not thinking ahead, just doing what's in front of me. Because I'm already in my head, instead of being silent mind, I'm already in my head, well, I'm going to get denied here. I'm going to walk into this building and they're going to say this shit. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm looking at the sales. I'm like, no, just focus on one thing at a time. And so I bring out the sales script and I'm reading the sales script. And in my head, thoughts are coming up as I'm reading the sales script. I'm like, man, if this guy walked in my door, I'd tell him to kick rocks, dude. This guy, I was like, because I can dissect what's happening throughout this sales speech. And so it's just about shutting that mind down and just saying, hey, just do one step at a time. Just take the next step. Just take the next step. Just take the next step. And I don't care how stupid you think it sounds. It's like this motor running in your head is what's keeping you from obtaining your goals, because it's not like you're not the person it's like I've put in all the training, dude. I've read hundreds of books. I know the mental principles you're talking about. I understand that I'm creating the reality presented before me. So all this doubt is creating that doubt moving forward in the future. And so, yeah, it's just shut that mind up, do what you're told. They said memorize the speech, memorize it.
So before we get too further, I just want to have a little bit of a recap, okay, on kind of the pathways of what Dustin's talking about here. So, and I think a lot of people can relate to this because maybe you are in a transition in your life. Maybe you've lost a job or you're moving from one job and you're moving into a completely different environmental state of life. Different job, different friends, different people, different environments. Maybe it's a different state. Maybe you're moving, right? And so anytime that we get into something new, we can guarantee two things, okay? There's going to be multiple pathways at your choice. You get to choose, right? What is going to be my experience in these next two pathways? And then once you pick a pathway, like Dustin has picked this pathway to achieve this insurance sales position, right? And he starts on the journey, right, of learning the knowledge. Well, during the time along the way of learning the knowledge, you're going to come up against mental voices in your head. You're either going to have two voices. You're going to have one voice that's very motivating, that's going to tell you to show up and you're doing a good job and keep at it and keep working hard, right? Or you're going to have another voice, which is probably more common than not in most people's heads right now. That's the voice to tell you to quit. That's the voice to tell you that you're no good.
It's not even telling you to quit. It's just all these insecurities that are building up and like, oh my gosh, this is an all commission sales job. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go walk in and talk to business owners and,
yes.
Oh, they've got things going on. And it's like the overwhelming sense of all of those things going on is just like, why should I even try?
Yes, so a mental anxiety, okay? A mental anxiety of whatever your situation looks like. For Dustin, it's an overwhelming sense of, am I going to be able to do this? Or am I going to be able to accomplish this, right? A lot of people are going to come up against these same types of voices. And it's important to know that what we're explaining here is you have the ability to let those voices go. And when Dustin talks about just doing one thing at a time, what he's saying is to be fully present in the now moment, which we've talked about, right? Reaching that 0 point, having a silent mind, being here in this moment. And so if my first step is just to read these 10 things about being an insurance salesman, well, then I'm just fully enthralled and embodied in reading and studying those 10 points.
Yeah, and you have to do that without worrying about a future outcome where the problems that you're trying to work out in your head haven't even happened yet.
They haven't even happened
and
yet.
that affects your studying. And kind of like what you said, like you may feel like you look stupid, like while you're in your head, like going in and talking to people, and they may not be interested. There's all these made up scenarios in your head, but if you don't actually do the work to get there and push through it, then you actually are stupid because you're making a stupid decision. You're quitting before you even tried. And I think with sales, I have a lot of experience with, the style of business you're going into. I was a realtor for a while, and I had no business when you start, kind of like you will, and I had to do everything through cold calling, just straight up cold calling people and trying to learn scripts and stuff. And I know that anxiety. It's
yeah.
hard.
I mean, it's enough to make you wonder, like, oh my God, like this is dumb. I'm seriously, I quit. Like this is ridiculous.
But also, man, when you learn that skill to be able to talk to anybody about anything in a cold conversation, it makes you the baddest motherfucker in the room, dude. Because if you can master that, you can do anything. And it goes to like what you were saying, like to be present in the small stuff without thinking about the outcome or gaining anxiety about it. Because if you, while you're studying, you're thinking like, dude, this is stupid. It's not going to work. I'm not going to listen to these other people or whatever. And you either back out, or even if you go through with it, with that mindset, you're going to carry that into the actions of what you're trying to do to actually close these people.
Well, because you're never even going to get to the close because you create your environment. So all of those wealth building things that you're talking about, like the Bugatti, the boat, or whatever have you, it's like just wanting those things is like a sense of greed. But like those are a byproduct of you helping people, and those are a byproduct of you embodying the abundance mindset.
And wanting those things is not bad in itself, because there's a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes that's the only thing that gets you through a bullshit situation, whether you're just by yourself or whatever. Not all the time, but there's sometimes when I was working and, the only thing I was thinking about was, buying a fucking sports car or whatever, and I just kept going, kept knocking on that next door.
Well, you're talking about some sort of internal motivation that pushes you past those doubts.
Yeah.
And
which
so
is kind of derailing
me,
a little bit, but yeah.
No, I would say you're on track.
Well, let's go back, okay? Because, again, we're talking about in these processes of learning something for something new, right? The second thing that Dustin had mentioned, which a lot of people might not realize they have the ability to do, and this is what we've been talking about over the last 3 podcasts, is being able to observe your environment. And when something is projected towards you, like, for instance, the instructor told Dustin the main test is going to be harder than the practice test, you have the ability to change what you have seen, heard, and felt. And so when the instructor says that, Dustin, in that moment, he overrode it, okay? And how did he overwrite that? Instead of letting the little voice come in and say, man, you know what, you're right, this is going to be too hard, I don't even know how I'm going to pass it. Instead of that, Dustin had a silent mind, and Dustin revisited this visual interpretation of this instructor, and in his head, he's seeing and hearing and feeling the instructor going, man, this is the easiest test you guys have ever taken. You guys are all going to pass with flying colors. And what Dustin means, too, by when you are matching the vibrational frequency of this anxiety or overwhelming sense, right? Remember, we're compounding and creating realities billions of times per second. We're shifting through dimensions. And the next dimension that we shift through, its momentum is based off of the previous vibration you are experiencing in the present moment. And so if I'm worried or I'm anxiety or I have fear, that is a lower vibration. That's sub 200 hertz. And so the experience of me passing the test or me meeting the people or me getting in this new environment will 100% match that vibration. And so it's important to understand that we have to be able to be present and silence that little voice. I like to call it the protective personality, but really it's only protecting you when a lion's in the environment and you need to run. Other than that, just imagine the boss being that lion. But the protective personality was meant to be able to teach you run, fight, or flight. And then once the threat was gone, that protective personality subsides. Okay, but what has happened is we as a collective have kind of positioned ourselves to where this protective personality is, oh man, I don't want to go to work because my boss is going to be just an asshole, or oh, I don't think I can pass these tests because, it's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to shut that mechanism off and be present moment, because when you're silent and in peace and you're in present moment, your vibrational frequency raises. And then as Dustin was explaining and he was overriding those instances, then the test ended up being easy, almost identical to what he had been studying.
Well, I had to carry that through even into the exam room, because if you've ever been into one of these exam rooms, it's just a bunch of cubicles and gray walls. And so it's like, and it's, you walk in and I'm observing my heart rate when I walk in. I'm observing my thought process when I walk in. And it's even like, it's body language. And so I'm in there and immensely I want to tense up. My heart rate is now shaking. And it's just like I'm getting in that nervous feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to accomplish this. And instead, I literally sit there and I kicked back the whole time during the test. And I kept repeating myself. Before I answered each question, I was like, man, this shit's easy. I love being here. Because it was an environment that makes you feel it's kind of like a low vibrational environment. And it automatically instilled like my higher heart rate. And as soon as you feel yourself in some of these situations, merely changing your body language will change your internal representation of yourself too. So this, chilling back like this, it automatically puts you in a state of confidence. And so if you want little tips in situations where you may feel social anxiety, merely just like changing your posture inside, that'll trigger something inside of you.
There's a lot of science behind that. Just like being
absolutely.
in a room and how you sit changes the response.
I instantly went to being relaxed and calm, and my heart rate went down, and I answered every test question with confidence.
How big was this test?
It was 110 questions.
It was quite a bit.
That
2
is
hours.
quite a bit.
2 hours.
That's a big test.
The last exam that I studied for was real estate, and dude, I was so obsessed with passing that I studied all the time, and when I walked into that fucking test exam, I was like, this is my fucking bitch.
And you said, and I also got confidence from you guys, because every time I walk into the, truck country, it's like, here's the way you talk, Nick. I've never had a problem with money. Sales come easy to me. I always knock tests out of the park. And I'm just like, I hear you guys speak this, and as a less confident person who maybe haven't had those experiences in my past, my experiences have been, man, I've never been good at taking tests. Man, I've always foiled under pressure. And so, like, using you guys as just kind of like my group, my support group, in order to, like, you know what? These guys are always crushing it out of the park, and the results speak. And I'm hanging out with these guys because I want to be the fifth, surrounding yourself.
The beautiful thing about that is we're just simply a reflection of yourself. So what you see in us is already inside of you. You're just learning how to be aware of it and stay focused upon it instead of the other voice.
And kind of getting into like we were talking about to begin with, like the discipline. Like, one of the things that helps me have that confidence is when I am alone. And I have a goal inside, it becomes all consuming. When I was by myself, I wasn't partying to study for this test. No, I'm sorry, I was studying. I was not partying. I was consumed with it. When I was alone, that's all I was doing. It's all I was consumed with. I had a discipline where I'd wake up at 5 a.m., go work out, and then come back and read for 2 hours on this stuff. And doing these little things in pursuit of that goal is what helped give me that confidence, because I didn't have an option to fail. Like, that's what I was going to do. I didn't have another fallback plan, and having that discipline to being ready to raise my frequency to that level, because that's what I wanted to be. So I was insecure and stuff alone, but I studied so much. I built 1,000 different flashcards that I wrote up by hand, and I would just go through them for hours and hours until I memorized absolutely everything. And I think that's the key to success in anything. And once you get the discipline to be able to do that when you're alone and no one is telling you to do it, and you're doing the small disciplines when no one's looking, that's where the confidence comes from. That's why I can say I can go sell anything to anybody if I want to, because I'm the motherfucker that did that. No one else was doing that. I was doing that. And
we were walking out, and you were closing up the truck country, and I guess someone walked up, and I guess you were rattling all the trucks a sales price off the top of your head. They're not listed on the truck. They were asked, how much is that truck? 30,000. How much is that truck? 42.5.
How many miles that one
Yeah,
has?
143.
I mean,
you know?
that's not just me. I mean, Josh is there too now. But we got when you do everything in the business, and you learn how to create that discipline where we are buying the trucks and we have it in our mind of what we want to have on the lot. When we're controlling everything we're bringing in and doing, this is applicable in anything that you're in. When you're controlling the environment around you, as in like buying the inventory and the culture around us, when it comes in and it gets put out there, we know everything. There's not a single truck out there that we don't know by heart.
Yep, that's right.
Every issue that we had, and having that confidence, if a new car dealer moves in, it's like, man, fuck these guys, dude. I can blow them out of the park, because I guarantee you, the people that they're going to hire to run their stuff, they can't come close to what me and this guy do over here.
And it's real important too. One of my favorite things, and Dustin's fully aware of Napoleon Hill, is my favorite law.
The Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, right? my favorite law for Napoleon Hill is to do more than what you're paid for. And the biggest fault for most people when it gets into businesses or gets into whatever realm of whatever it is that you're doing is sometimes they can have this concept or this idea, well, that's not my job. My job is right here, and this is my parameter, and this is all that I do. And, well, you're going to fail for the rest of your life because
they don't pay me enough to do that.
Yeah, they don't pay me enough to do that.
I'm only making this.
Right. That whole mindset, again, and like what Dustin was saying earlier, it carries into the environmental experience. And so, but I will say probably the number one most important thing out of anything before we even get into anything is to get your ass into the gym.
Oh,
okay?
My gosh, yeah.
Get your ass into the gym and start lifting some weights. Start running, start doing push-ups, whatever it is, there's no excuse. But I can attest and swear on everything that I have ever done that when I am in absolute discipline and consistency of showing up to the gym and working out, it trickles down upon everything in my existence.
100%. And, going to the gym is the most easy and simple form of personal development that you can do right now. You don't even have to go buy a book. You can go do squats wherever you're standing right now. And your income will never exceed your own personal development. If you're not working on yourself in any manner at all, and it starts physically, because if you are more physically shaped, no matter who you're talking to, people will always respect you more if you're in shape. I mean,
well, your body just in a naturally fit state, in a proper body fat percentage, your body's vibrating at a higher frequency. When you're fat, lazy, sluggish, you can't show up for your workout appointments, right? Your vibrational frequency of your body, of your cellular structure is lower. And it's all about our vibrational frequency. Everything is based off vibrational frequency, and everything will reflect that back.
Well, there is something that's kind of coming up in my thought frame while we're talking about this, is a lot of the things we're talking about is health insurance is a commission-based job. It's a 1099 job. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be self-motivated to get in the gym. You guys are business owners. Nobody's telling you that you need to show up to truck country and then you need to know about all these trucks. These are things that are self-driven to you. I had a guy that I was driving earlier this week who is a data scientist, and he was part of that program that had to move from going to the office to going at home. And so this guy was he actually went to the hospital, or not to the hospital, but to his primary care physician to seek out pharmaceutical drugs, because he thought he was in depression. And I was like, why don't you describe to me what's going on? And he said, well, man, he goes, I don't have any motivation or drive to do anything ever since I got out of the office. He goes, I work from home now. And he goes, I don't seem to get my work done. I don't seem to get out of bed. And I said, so I went and sought out these drugs because I thought I was depressed. And I said, bro, you're not depressed. You're just not in that environment where you got your boss leaning over your shoulder saying, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. Where's the report? It's like now you're at home in your environment where you're comfortable and you're not able to motivate yourself to get up because you've always had a boss telling you what to do.
Yeah, you lose the social pressure.
Comfort is the killer of motivation. And if you get too comfortable for too long, you're going to start losing motivation. And it's important that we stay uncomfortable, right? That's why a lot of the times, like when someone puts pressure on you, or someone says, "Hey, dude, if you don't pick up your work ethic, you're going to lose your job." Well, what happens? We start moving. We either move it or we lose it. One of the two, right? Well, same thing with the gym. If you don't go into the gym, you're going to lose it. Same thing with work. If you don't show up to work, you're going to lose it. Same thing with your discipline and your goals. If you don't set goals, your life is just going to be on repeat for the rest of your life. If you can't change what your current pattern is, then you are too comfortable, okay? And it takes a little bit of uncomfortableness, a little bit of motivation, maybe a little bit of yelling, right? Maybe a little bit of anger in the right motivation to be able to get you to push to the next step. And everybody goes through progressions of extreme discipline and forward throttle and success, and then we could shift right back into being comfortable. I mean, I can know, at least in my life, there's been at least 4, 5, 6 time periods where I've fluctuated through long periods of, I'm talking absolute discipline, notating and writing down every macro, making sure that every day is the exact same timing, the exact same food, the exact same discipline in showing up to the workout, the same supplements, making sure, I mean, for 10 years of my life was perfect. Well, then you get to where you're about 35, 36, 37, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I'm a little tired. But what we're here to tell you is there's no room for tired. If you're tired, well, that means that you're not resting your mind. Your mind's running, because if you can sit there for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes in the afternoon or in the morning or in the night and just calm yourself and get into a nice breathing sequence and achieve a state of silence, or 0 point like we call it, or just peace within the mind of no worry, doubt, or fear, you will begin to notice that your sleep gets better. You become more balanced. You get more energized, right? And if you are in the gym, one of the things my dad always told me, he says, anytime you go into something new, he goes, you don't want to just come in up here. He goes, because if you come in up here and you're revving out up here at your full max capacity, well, there's going to come a time that you eventually crash, right? It's about finding that sweet spot. It's about being able to find the balance, both mentally and physically, right? And so first is organize the mind, silence it. Second thing is organize the body. What are we putting into the mouth? What are we doing physically, right? Balance it. And then what are we doing to achieve the goals that we wish and desire to have, right? And I think earlier, so one of us said something too, like if you want money or if you want monetary value, I don't necessarily look at that as greed, but how I look at it is a state of lack. You lack that, so you wish you have it. That vibrational frequency in itself is just going to kill every goal that you ever try to shoot for. And so we have to clear the mind out. We have to focus with accuracy on what our goals are right now. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? How do you see your family and your life at one point in time that just makes you so happy and so filled and so absolutely enthralled in what life can bring you? What does that look like? And if you don't know what that looks like, well, maybe this is your opportunity to sit down and take some time and ask yourself, what is it that I really want?
And I think that's the biggest question that anybody can ask themselves, what they really want. I think most people don't even really know that, or even what the lifestyle that once you achieve your goal, what you're actually going to have. And I think what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast is if financial and monetary gain is your only goal, you'll end up very empty and alone, even worse off than when you first started because you don't have any other goals. And to the success and about being tired or, whatever, there is a point to where, that's what really separates successful people from unsuccessful people. And you'll find this as you're going to be going and cold calling door to door and making these sales and how hard it is. And, 6 months in, even when you've made money and you're getting kicked in the nuts over and over again, all the no's and stuff that you're going to receive, are depressed and you are sick of getting all the no's, and then realizing that this is actually where everybody else quits. This is why there's a high turnover rate, and you have to be the motherfucker that's just going to eat that fucking frog and just keep going. When you are tired and physically exhausted and like no one else really believes in you, this is where everybody quits. The most successful people in the world, and they'll all agree to this, anybody whether who's successful at all, was the person that when everything was going against them, they just kept going. Nobody's any smarter than anybody else. They're just a bunch of retards who didn't quit.
We're all connected to the same source of energy.
100%. And and we are. But you see what I'm saying? Like that's to find any success in anything, you know, you can have the discipline and do the morning routine or whatever it looks like for you to gain success in whatever you're going to do. And when you hit that wall over and over and over again and you're still not getting anywhere, as soon as you quit, you know, or try to change direction, you're never going to find any of your goals, really. You have to realize that when you're in that dark place, like that's where everybody quits, when it burns the most. And then when you push past that, I believe that's when you decide that's the person you're going to be and you go past that pain of losing, that's when your frequency rises.
Mm-hmm. You know, and like it can be kind of hard to understand some of the things that we're saying right now because it takes being able to be violent in your actions and what type of energy does the violence bring. Okay. And so a lot of people say, well, why would you want to be violent? Okay. Well, look, I lived a time period of my life that was extremely violent. Okay. And a lot of people don't realize that about me. A lot of people look at me in these days and I'm like, oh, Josh is the most loving, you know, kind-hearted, most gentle guy in the whole world. And that's purely because I have controlled and learned how to subside the violence, the anger, and be able to not utilize that through a reactive emotion, but I can utilize it energetically to push me through situations when other people quit. And so how can you practice this, being able to achieve this absolute untamed violence, right? Well, you don't have to do it to other people. You don't have to do it to your friends or families or your community. You can do this in the gym. Get in there, throw on some boxing gloves, go over there to a heavy bag, and fucking beat the shit out of that thing. And in your mind, imagine that what that punching bag represents is everything that's ever held you back from anything that you've ever done. And you get in there, and for the next fucking hour, you beat that thing until you can't fucking breathe. And no matter what happens, you rip that bitch off the wall and throw it down and give it some elbows. And fucking when you're done, you go, yeah, I did it.
And then when everyone else is looking at you, they know that you're that fucking motherfucker nobody wants to mess with.
You're that guy, yeah. And so, okay, so Josh, how does being violent, or how does, you know, engaging in this violent energy, right? Because violence isn't bad. Violence can be very beneficial when necessary, okay? Because again, and what we're learning how to do is to drop the attachment to words, right? Evil and good, violent and non-violent, right? And just to be able to capture the energy of these things and utilize them in your life in a proper way. And so there's going to be a time to where you're about to run out of gas in an entrepreneurship run that you're doing. Maybe it's in a marathon, something physical. Maybe it's trying to achieve a new insurance job. There's going to come that
even
time.
in your marriage.
Even in your marriage. This is a big one, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to learn to tap into that infinite energy of violence. And it is very beneficial when you can do this.
It just means to fight for something.
It means to fight for something, to fight with a purpose, to fight with an absolutely unstoppable force of energy. Now, when you learn how to harness this energy, it doesn't become chaotic. It doesn't become, oh shit, I can't believe I did that. I shouldn't have done that. Right? We're not talking about going out and fighting every weekend, which I did for a long period of my life. Every day of the week, me and all my friends. I could have 100 people here on the next 100 podcasts and tell you 100 different stories. That was just how we grew up. But what I've learned by being able to, to be able to even to get into that position of physical energy and reaction is something that is really unfathomable. And I don't suggest anyone to ever do this on a physical level. But what it's done for me, and I like to kind of use the analogy that as far as the arrow has been pulled back, is as far as the arrow can fly forward. And so if you too are maybe one of those people that grew up maybe with, I don't like to say I grew up with a rough life. I grew up with the most beautiful family and the most beautiful environment, and I was always provided for. But I grew up also same time in the streets, I guess whatever you want to call the streets, right? Doing things that most people couldn't ever fathom. And what that has done for me is for me to be able to experience that anger and violence. And now having awoken to my spiritual ascension, I can utilize these energies within me to be able to help push me, give me the advantage that most people don't have because they don't know how to get violent. They don't know how to utilize that energy in a proper way.
It's what you do when you meet resistance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then it's like a trained thing. It's like you're training yourself when you meet resistance that makes you stronger, right? Just like when you use a resistance band. So it makes you stronger in different areas of your life if you use it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that applies to, I mean, obviously like violence, not violence, but, you know, just the physical discipline of, you know, what you're saying. How would that apply, in your opinion, to, let's just say, like business or like a relationship, like I just said? Because, you know, I feel like a lot of people can develop, and this was a big problem for me. I developed that fight for, you know, a business or other situations in my life, but like in my own relationships, this was the cause for like all 40 of my divorces.
Yeah, well, that's an easy one to answer, right? Because 9 out of 10 times people go into a relationship completely unbalanced. The man is trying to impress the woman's trying to impress the man. Right there, their energies are completely off kilter, right? When you go into a relationship, maybe this is why I've been single so long, right? Because even myself, I'm still balancing myself out, right? I'm not ready for that
You
relationship.
won't meet the right person until you're in
Exactly.
a balanced relationship.
And so...
I mean, in a
and,
balanced state.
And what that means is, like, for a man at least, right? And maybe Shayna can speak after on, like, maybe how that would portray into a woman's sight, because I can't sit here and tell you exactly how a woman's balance should look, because I
know everything about women.
I'm not a woman, right?
Might as well just ask me.
But I can say that for a man, right, if you don't have your mental capacity at least at a silent level, right, you're completely unbalanced, okay? And what does that look like in energy and then going into a relationship? Well, one, we're probably still living down in the lower 3 chakras, right? The lower 3 energy centers. We're trying to figure out a livelihood. We're trying to figure out a wife. We're trying to figure out something we think we don't have yet, right? We're probably addicted to porn in some capacity or another, right? So our sexual energy is all unbalanced, right? Now we're viewing with lust instead of appreciation, right? We're all of these different things, right? We have this character that we have to uphold to our friends and our family, and so we think we have to be a certain way, and so since I'm happen to be a certain way and I can't be myself, I can't fully be present to this person into a relationship. And so, like, these are just all different energies of something that points to a masculine man being unbalanced prior to going into the relationship. And so if I'm already unbalanced and then I go into a relationship and all I'm trying to do is impress and make her like me, because maybe she doesn't like me when I do this, or maybe she does like me when I do this, or maybe I should be this way when I do this, right? This is just a complete state of chaotic imbalance. And your momentum of that imbalance or distortion, right, which is technically what you're seeing inside of you, even though it's projecting outside of you, is just going to unfold in that manner.
Well, it's no
going to
different.
unfold in the relationship, too.
10 out of 10 times.
Go ahead.
It's no different than an exam, dude. It's no different than the new job. The new female is not a different. It's not a different thing outside of any of the other things we've been discussing. All it is an external representation of who you already are. And so now it's easy being a person who's been cultivating the energies of love and attracting business opportunities and things of that nature. But now you bring in a woman into your life or a man into your life, and now you are now tied to this thing that's now outside of you that you are looking to make you happy or whatever. And so all of these different little aspects that you're talking about, these nuances or these triggers, you know, oh my gosh, she's ignoring me today. That creates a trigger. Oh my gosh, she is angry at me now. Oh my gosh, that's a trigger. And if you know the women are emotional and do this thing all the time, then you just become stoic and you just don't listen to any of it.
Well, and two,
You're like, this too shall pass.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, if that, like today, I had a woman, she was distraught. I'm an Uber driver while I'm transitioning to my new career, and she had her kid in the car seat, and she's in the back, and she's freaking out. She's frazzled. She's going to the hospital to like get checked for something with a seizure medication that she's been having go through. And she sent me all the way across the town, and she starts to go, she goes, where are we? And I said, Warren Clinic, right where you had me going. And she goes, this isn't where it is. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, tell me. I cut off traffic because she goes, it's next to that Apple thing. You know, it's like it's a quick trip and an Apple. And I go,
that is a woman's direction.
I know, right?
100%.
And instead of doing what I wanted to do, which is go, what? Yeah, what's
West,
fucking
north,
Apple? Like,
left,
yeah,
right.
let's go. Like, she goes, oh, Apple barrel, and I go, cool. I look in the rearview mirror and I whip it open into 3 lanes of traffic, and I flip it and I get her on, and then I'm.
How many 5-star reviews
Then
do
she
you
had
have?
a seizure.
I'm a 5-star. I'm a 5-star driver, baby. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so we're driving, and she's talking to her kid, and she goes, oh, we're gonna be late, and this and that and the other, and I'm just cool as a cucumber, you know. I'm like, you barely even notice that they're back there, you know. You're just doing your job. And she goes, oh, it's not your fault. I'm like, yeah, I know it's not my fault.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's like, yeah. So I think if you're talking about masculine energy, I think being able to, I guess, be in a cooperative relationship with a woman, it's being able to be stoic and neutral and just
stable.
Whatever she's going through, that is what she is going through. And
we're not meant to like carry all the things that we and that society right now, like I feel like there's this big societal push for like independent women. And I mean, I consider myself to be an independent woman, but that doesn't mean that like I need a masculine man to take care of a lot of things for me so that I can be in my feminine.
Well, that's like you're the flag and he's the flagpole.
100%.
It's like the stability. And so
but you also can't look for that stability in someone else. You have to have it within yourself. You know, because if you're looking for something on the outside, like I need financial stability from him, I need this kind of stability from him. You know, if he can't actually give you those things, you have to be stable with those things in yourself, or you're going to be looking for them outside of yourself. And I think that's like a screw up that a lot of people make. I've made it for myself, you know?
Absolutely. You know, and here's kind of a flip side of that coin too. You could teeter too hard to the other side for a woman that has to be in control of everything and has to be independent and has to make the money and has
there's a reason for that.
To do all of this, right? That is a distortion or an imbalance. But here's a really good one for everybody listening out there, and this should be the number one first thing you look for. If you're out on your first date and they can't put their phone down, get the fuck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing: if you've finally done the work, which I haven't, which is why I'm still single, it's because I've literally put, I refuse to even have a conversation with anyone because I know that I'm drawing in that, like, let's just say
you're going to get someone that matches your energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm not balanced. And so it's been a lot of time, and I now know that I'm starting to get where I'm at because I'm now attracted a lot of women who in my life where it's like, oh, okay, we're sense. Clicking, like things are happening. But even then, it's not like, okay, this one we get along. This one, hey, let me get your number, or like this one. No, I'm wanting to, because I'm not looking for something to fulfill a void in me anymore. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that that's not going to be my only opportunity that I met someone, it's not about that I met this person outside of myself. It's like, okay, I'm calibrating my internal energy and my stability, and that this person is just a compliment to me now. And I'm 100%. No longer, but at first it was like I was in that low vibrational state of depression in which I was reading books and I was like watching these guys on YouTube, and it's like, this is how a woman wants her man to be. Yeah. He wants him to be like this uptight asshole prick who's, you know, fucking knocking anybody out who looks at her. And
that's going to attract a certain type of woman.
No, it's a toxic relationship. Yeah. And so, but like, I honestly, back then, I was seeking that toxic type of woman because it's like exciting or whatever.
It's not chaos. Like it's not boring,
right?
You know,
and
what
so,
am I gonna get today?
Right,
Does she hate me? Does she
Slapped.
love me? I can remember when me and Nick first started dating. I said something like, I can remember saying this in my past relationships, like, God, can we just get along for 24 hours? Just 24 hours. Me and Nick don't have that problem, but I have said that many times in my life,
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh,
like,
yeah.
how terrible you can't get along for 24 damn hours.
Well,
you know?
when you're in those lower vibrational frequencies and you're doing all the things, the porn and everything that we're talking about, and you're, in fact, you probably didn't meet in a good balanced state. You met on a physical attraction level, and so once you begin to raise your vibration into these higher ways of being, you're balanced, you're in love, you're in joy, and your happiness. It's like you no longer even like the things that you thought you were attracted to, you're no longer attracted to. But in that state that you're in, that's the only thing that makes sense.
100%.
Well, and here's a real quick tip on the quantum realm of understanding vibrational frequencies, because we keep throwing out, well, if I was this vibration, I was attracting this vibration, and if I'm this vibration, I'm attracting this vibration. Whatever vibrational frequency that you emit, right, and that's through your own actions, thoughts, deeds, the way you treat people, the way you see things, your imbalances, distortions, everything inside of you, right, creates a specific vibrational frequency. And so for layman's terms, let's just make it easy. Let's just say we're here at neutrality of the vibrational frequency, but I'm on this ascension journey, right, and I'm wakening up. Well, maybe I still have an imbalance that I need a partner or a relationship. It's important to understand that if I'm here at 200 hertz, which is neutrality, well, that's the vibrational frequency of the woman that I'm going to vibrate. And so if I am consistently raising my vibration and maybe I hit 300 hertz and then a 200 hertz vibrational frequency woman comes in, because that's really what I was attracting in that moment, well, then a lot of people get into a relationship and then they realize that it doesn't work out. That's because unlike vibrations don't match. And so this ascension journey, it can be a solo journey for a while.
It needs to be.
And it needs to be a solo journey before a while. And what you're going to realize is you're going to hit 300 hertz. You're going to hit 400 hertz. You're going to get up into the heart chakra. You're going to start feeling love, right? But you're still going to be ascending. And so it's just important to know that everything that manifests in your life was a manifestation off of your prior vibration. And a lot of people confuse that. They go, well, I'm happy and I'm in love right now, and she just showed up. Well, you might have just reached that state of vibration, and that might still be a reflection that you have to work through, or a lesson you have to let go of.
That person might still be a lesson.
That person might still be a lesson.
For you to like see the things that you needed to work on, right? And then this person shows up and they've got the same problems that the last motherfucker had.
Yeah.
And you see that person and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell everybody, right? Like, if you haven't quite learned how to internally do the work, okay, how to identify where distortions and imbalances within your body are, and what you need to do internally to balance that area of energy inside of your body, well, then the universe has to show you in your physical reality through events and people that trigger those imbalances within you to give you the last opportunity to be able to move through and let it go.
And let it go, yeah.
Right?
I heard it explained this way, like on a scale of 1 to 10, say you're a 4 and you're walking around and you hook up with someone who's an 8. And they could be being the best possible version of themselves at a 4. But if you're at an 8, like their best is not going to equal like your worst. You know, because you're on different planes.
You're on different planes of frequency.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what we're getting at here is if we can allow ourselves to let go of all these lower vibrational frequencies, and we can spend some time learning how to love ourselves through creating goals in our life, through silencing our mind, through doing the internal work, through showing up in discipline, right? Through being an absolute cutthroat killer in everything that you do, that you show up and you're not going to let anything take you down, right? These are all steps and processes to eventually arrive at a frequency that when we are at this frequency and we can wait long enough, patiently enough, with no expectation of outcome, the right person will manifest in your life.
What's that thing you keep saying? No thought, no thing, no. What's it?
So what I talk about is becoming no body, right? No body, no one, no where, no time, no thing, no place, right? And what that actually means, like, how do you become nobody? Well, when I'm silencing my mind, I have no thoughts of myself or anyone else. I don't have a thought of me wanting to go on a date again with this girl, or I don't have a thought of, you know, my boss, you know, reaming my ass for showing up 2 minutes late, right? I am nobody, right? I have no concept of time, to become no time, right? I'm not worried about, oh, what time I got to be at work here today, or, oh, I need to go do that, or, oh, wait, this birthday party's at this time, right? These are all thought processes of time, of places that I need to be at specific times. Becoming nowhere, right? Being able to lose all concept of the room that you're in, right? Not needing to get up and move the body into the next place or environment.
But yet it's like we still need to have the vision, the dream, the goal. We have to embody who it is that we see ourselves in the future. But it's like
that comes after, right? And it can only come once we've let go of everything we are not. Because if I haven't achieved a mind of silence, organization, and accuracy, well then, yeah, I might be embodying and envisioning this beautiful life that's of abundance and love and the perfect spouse and the perfect family and the perfect everything, right? But if my mind's constantly jumping from that to, oh, worry about where I have to be, or, oh, I got to do this, or, oh, I got to show up in this character because these people think about me in some way. And so what I'm doing is I'm hopscotching between two different timelines of frequency. And then throughout my day, whichever one has more momentum, if I was more in anxiety or more in stress versus silence, peace, organization, and accuracy, well, then that's the one that's going to manifest every time. No matter how many days you show up to the gym, no matter how many days you sit down and you meditate, if your mind does not go from a chaotic state, meaning your attention span goes from one thing to the next 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 thing, if you can't just bring that to zero and just be in zero for a while, it's actually more important, in my opinion, before embodying anything, to sit and to become nobody, to sit in absolute pure silence awareness, because it's in that state that you're actually in the vibrational frequency of peace. You have no external stimulation, which allows you to sit in a state of peace. And peace is the highest vibrational frequency we can achieve in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what I can describe is I had an hour and a half drive to get here. I have an hour and a half drive to get here every time I come out to this podcast. And it's like I am just kind of wanting to listen to the music or maybe no music and just kind of keep singular a thought. It's like, so I'm using that moment. But every time, even I practice breathing exercises, I meditate, I do all the work that we're talking about. And even I'll catch myself like, oh man, Josh is going to say this on the podcast and Nick's going to say that and you're going to say that and then I'm going to come back with this. And then I just catch myself and I go, because here's the thing.
You're pre-planning instead of like being in the present kind of?
No, that's exactly what it is. And not only that, but like the number one hermetic law is the universe is mental, so mentalism. Mm-hmm. And then thoughts create things. Oh. And so let's just say that I am going to create some version of that based on that, but like it is not going to be at its highest self, like its highest version, because had I not done all that,
like you're holding it back, like what could be over.
Well, you're giving a limitation.
I'm
not allowing things to just be in the moment where I'm over here, because I do realize, okay, now I'm in the studio. It's like, okay, I've said some of the things that I pre-planned and pre-thought. What does that mean? Not only was I not in the present moment when I was on my drive here, but now I'm not I'm not in the present moment in the studio,
right?
Because I'm over here, instead of listening intently to what Josh has to say in this particular moment or what Nick has to say in this particular moment with a silent mind and not thinking about what I'm going to say next. I've already, instead of listening to them, I've pre-planned something that I want to say. And so I'm over here going like, oh, this is where I'm going to say that thing that I thought earlier. So you're never in the present moment in that.
Right.
Well, I mean, and to that, I don't think all of that is a bad thing, because if you approach anything like what we're doing now, it's difficult.
It's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like a lack of preparedness. If you don't
there's a
reflect on it,
difference.
and you're not ready for things, and you show up and you didn't think about anything at all, it can be just as toxic. But I think
There's two sides to that.
Well,
coin.
I think, let me finish this thought real quick. I think going back to like what we're talking about, discipline, having a discipline, maybe a time to reflect on what you did instead of like on the way here thinking about it to, be more prepared for what you think is going to happen, more of a reflection and a discipline of actually dissecting what you actually experienced so you can be better prepared. Does that kind of make sense?
No, it definitely doesn't. And I think there are two different positions, right? There's definitely the position to where I can designate my time to be present with the topics and like, okay, let me do some research on them and let me expand my consciousness, awareness about them, right? But I'm also really I kind of went through that pathway, and now I've arrived at this pathway I think Dustin's trying to explain.
Well, your infinite intelligence.
When all of the information in all of the world is already inside of us, right? It's actually more advantageous to show up from a state of silence, because what happens is we move out of the way and we allow Source, God, to connect and flow information through us unfiltered.
Yeah.
And so when we begin to get into these mental constructs of how am I going to do it and what am I going to say, and they're going to say this, because what we're doing is we're saying, hey, God, get out of the way, right?
I know
this isn't me, Josh, here speaking on a podcast. This isn't Dustin or Shayna or Nick Dollins on a podcast speaking. This is Source Energy, God, flowing information through us, reaching other people, allowing them to awaken their minds, right? And sometimes it's real hard to step out of the human driver's seat and be like, oh, well, I mean, really, I'm the one that thinks of this. Well, who is the I that we're speaking of here, right? There is no I, right? There is only energy and communication of information. Right. And so the better we can learn to get out of the way mentally and just achieve a state of silence, you reach that point of the infinite field, which states that all information is here right now and readily available in whatever situation is necessary. And so it's also like showing up in life to, your family, right? If you've got the mindset of, I've got to support my family and I got to show up and I have to make this certain amount of money and I got to do this for my wife or she's going to be mad, or I got to, all these things and how it might fold out and this, that, or the other. If you just get out of the way and you just silence your mind, I can promise you that right now you don't need to have another thought for the rest of your life. Now, some people, what do you mean? Not another thought for the rest of my life? What about when I'm like being present with something and I'm thinking about something? Here's what I'm saying, and I fully believe in this. No thought, silent mind, fully state and embodied in a state of peace, without any character, without any expectation, without any identification or attachment to any words. If you can achieve an absolute state of singularity, everything will always show up exactly when it's supposed to. Everything will be provided in abundance exactly when it's supposed to. Every situation you come up to and someone conversates with you, the exact information will flow through you. But we don't want that. We want to be in control.
Control it.
We want to have the sensation of, I did that, or I achieved this, so I feel good about myself.
Well, I guess life gets so out of hand all the time, and things are always changing, and people are dying. We're losing people in our lives that mean a lot to us. And so I feel like all the things we can't control, we feel like we can control this thing.
It's a false sense of control. If I can control this thing, and that makes
it'll
up for
give
this
me some
other
sort of
thing that I
sense of
can't
stability
control.
in my life, because
Yeah.
everything else is uncontrollable.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't think life is ever really chaotic at all, because
I'm just gonna start calling you Peacemaker Dollins.
Well,
I'm
wait,
jealous.
no,
I'm
here-
jealous.
It has been chaotic for you in the past. You are just in a peaceful.
no,
You're in a
that's
peaceful
not true at all.
stage of
He's
life.
just like,
Nothing-
man, I'm just chilling,
No.
man. I got everything going on for me, and I got no thoughts.
That's far from true. hear me out. So, like,
Take it back.
the only reason life was ever chaotic is because I was trying to control things, and I thought that it was. Here's the thing: there's nothing in life that is different for anybody else. People fucking die. People lose jobs. What part of your life ever has not happened to somebody else that you didn't know was eventually going to happen to you at some point?
Yeah,
your life is going to live forever.
It just seems so close to home when it's you know?
It does. And I think that's just a personal perspective. Just like you said on your way here, you think about things that you can control. Say he says this and that says that. Or people think, if my wife ever did this, I would do that. And I approach a situation in your relationship, and you already have this thing that's already
pre-planned.
Here's a better pre-plan that I'm going to give you. And Josh and I worked on this because I reached out to Josh a lot of times when things weren't going well for me, and things weren't going well in my family situation, and things weren't going well at all. And the first thing I did was just in my meditations, I started visualizing and speaking into existence what my family would be and what it would look like, as opposed to how it was presenting itself to me. Mm-hmm. And that's the power that you have, because I really, without doing any other thing other than visualizing how I wanted our relationship to be and dropping all the attachment of what I thought it was, that's exactly what it became. And it was just as simple as, instead of running my mind on all the things and that was presenting that I didn't like, I just continued to visualize what I wanted it to be and how we were harmony. And so if it was, we argue all the time, this guy's a dipshit, I don't want this person in my life, my family's all separate, nobody wants to get together anymore now that my grandmother's died, she was the glue of the family. And I started to change that. We are all cooperating, we're all amazing, everyone gets along. Literally just that act of meditation, without me trying to control everything like I was, because
maybe you took her spot.
No, I thought I was her spot, and I was forcibly trying to put them together again, and I was like, you go here, you here, asshole. And they did not like me. They were like, you're an intrusive piece of crap, like, we don't want you
you're an intrusive thought.
We don't want you
that resistance.
Like, they were like, it wasn't. So I may have like forced them into liking each other and cooperating.
It wasn't real though, because they were just doing
I wasn't harmonious within the process, because I was just like, I don't care if I'm an asshole. I just want you all to be together.
You guys just get along.
Yeah, and so like that was actually not very good, because I wasn't a part of the equation. And so what made me a part of the equation was just the visualization that this is how I wanted my family to show up. And I never once opened my mouth one more time. I never once said, you need to talk to this person. I just visualized it, and I kept my mouth shut, and magically it just all kind of appeared that way, like kind of harmoniously came into it.
I want to make a quick point right here real quick, because I think this is a perfect point. It is really, really, really important to understand and be aware that every single person on this planet is at a different level of the ascension. And for some, they might be near-death suicidal, absolute chaos, struggle. For some, it might be a control factor. It might be, I need to make this happen for that to happen. I need to do this for that, right? For some, it might just be a simple shift in perspective and being able to let go of it all. One of the things that was told me in the very beginning is, right now, Josh, you have the ability to be the highest vibrational frequency. You can just let it all go and just be your natural self, because naturally we vibrate at 800 hertz. Naturally, we are bright, shining, vibratory, energetic, spiritual beings. When we come into this earth, right, we have different levels that we're coming into, because we're all on different ascension paths. We're not everybody's at the same level, but we are all here for the graduation window. All right. And so when you hear Nick speak, right, Nick's coming from Nick's life perspective and his experience, and take note on that. When you see something in your environment, like I view Nick speaking to me, it's easy. I'm able to shift into, no thought, and that's just how it is. And I have this direct ascension, right? That energy is inside of me. I hear Dustin speak, right? And Dustin's at a different level. And Dustin and I have worked really hand in hand for 20 years almost now. And so, but what I've observed in Dustin is that, okay, this is an area within inside of me. And so, although Dustin may have been reaching out to me to talk and conversate and ponder ideas on how to manipulate or for said manifest a better experience, right? He's also teaching me what energies are still distorted inside of me. And so it's a two-way learning and streak. And what we're going to realize, and don't ever take any one person's, not mine, not Dustin's, not Nick's, not Shayna's, don't just take our word as the absolute fact. What we're trying to do here is bring you infinite different perspectives of the same thing, because that's what we're all here to do. We're here to be each other's mirrors. And so when you see things or you feel things when each of us are speaking, right, just ask yourself, what is that energy showing me? You know what, maybe I do kind of align more with what Dustin's talking about, or maybe I am more like Nick, and I can set my perspective, I can let go of everything else, and I can just achieve that. And we're all working towards being able to get into those more organized, accurate thoughts, accurate states of being, and letting go of the emotional reactions or repetitive thought patterns that bring us down, that self-down talk or talk bad about others or judgment, right? And so just wanted to make that little notation. Everybody is on their own path. And so not one way is the perfect way, but a little bit of each. Take it for your own, practice for yourself, and you will begin to realize where you're at on your ascension. And then you'll be able to take these tidbits as we all continue to conversate.
100%, man. It's well said. Well said stuff.
I do think that the process is kind of the same, though, in the sense of that thoughts are things, thoughts create emotions, and then you've got...
And emotions create thoughts.
Yeah, and then you've got the whole... Well, I guess one that I wanted to talk about, because it's like we're looking to this external event, say like, let's just say you put $10,000 cash in my hands right now, and that created an emotion within me of excitement and joy. Whoa, $10,000, I can do so much with this.
And why would you be excited about it?
Because it created... This external factor created emotion, but what I'm getting at is you can't attract what you're not. And so what I've been wanting to figure out is how to elicit that emotion prior to getting that external factor. That way I can, because it's that emotion that it draws it into your life. So,
well, it all just comes from like being able to identify whether or not that emotion or thought comes from a state of lack or a state of singularity. That's the first one, right? Because excitement can be a good thing, but it can also be an attachment. It can be an attachment in the sense of, oh, I'm excited because I thought that I didn't have that prior to achieving it. And now that I have it, it fills me and gives me this vibrational frequency. That is a state of separation and lack. And what happens is that situation continues to play out in your life. You continue to lose it, to gain it, to get the excitement. Or you get the excitement to gain it, and then you lose it. And so in this no thought thing, in this state of not being, it's like, it's almost as if you're saying that, you know, what if I am just a janitor? You know, what if I am just a yard keeper? Which those are all, you know, whatever. But I'm a guy who's always, I guess, aspired for more. But like, what if in my aspirations I'm not being myself, and maybe it's just I'm supposed to be myself, and maybe that guy cleans toilets, you know, and I'm just supposed to live in that present moment and not aspire to be anything better or worse, because there is no such thing. Well, you know, that's kind of a hard state and frame, because you're not that guy. And the janitor...
Well, I consider myself a
janitor. The
janitor
could be the happiest, go-lucky guy in the whole world and absolutely love life and brings a lot of purpose to that job and to those people there, and says hello and shakes hands and gives hugs and brings life and purpose to that. And just because they're a janitor, and here goes to the part of letting go of judgment, right? Like, we can't judge that person because they're a janitor when they're there in their perfection, bringing love to the whole. And if we see a janitor there, there is supposed to be a janitor there. Now, if we are in a state of frame that we are scared or fearful that we will not be able to reach some stature of what the world
society
deems,
tells you
they're
that
the
being a
society
janitor is
deems,
low. Yeah.
right? Whether it's whatever position, and that I may fall back into the so-called judged lower vibratory positions, right? Well, then that just tells us right there that we're still looking from a state of separation and lack. I lack that because I believe I don't have it. And so what we're teaching here is there's multiple levels of what we're teaching here. And as we continue on and we go back and forth and we wash through these ideas, you're going to begin to understand that, oh, okay, what I'm learning to do is how to comprehend the information, but then I'm learning how to let it all go. Because once I've comprehended or at least grasped the idea of what it is we're trying to do here with manifestation and all of these things, I can let it all go and I can just be in my silence and infinite being, because I already now know and understand how the structure formats. And so I need no longer to control it. Mm-hmm. God is controlling it. God is manifesting. And all I need to do is raise my vibrational frequency, because if my vibrational frequency is at 800, well, then everything in my experience is going to vibrate and reflect and be provided back to me in that manner. I don't need to go, I don't need to embody that I have gotten all of these riches and that I'm not from a state of lack, but like embodying myself in beautiful homes and embodying myself helping others and doing all of that thing. That's a certain vibrational frequency.
I think it's the intent.
It's the intent.
Like, are you doing it from an intentional place where like, I'm doing these things so that I get this house, or I'm doing these things so that I get, this body or whatever it is. But if you are just being
with beautiful, loving intent,
right,
then those things just show up.
Right.
That's the way it happens.
And they legitimately do. It is wild. Mm-hmm. They do.
I always tell everybody, you don't need to know what to say it. I don't need to think about what I'm saying to say the perfect thing. Right? And this goes with everything. I don't need to think about what my perfect home looks like to achieve the perfect home. All I need to know is, how do I feel if I have already achieved everything that I wish? And I've come to conclusion that if I am at a state of vibration of peace and love, well, then that's the vibration that's going to bring everything that gives me peace and love.
Well, you need nothing. You already have everything that you've always desired.
There's no state of lack.
So it's like, but now the intrusive egoic mind wants to come back in and say, okay, yeah, but you had goals to be this, and you had goals to be that, and then to make this much money. It's kind of like, look at a doctor, for example, who said, I'm just going to go be a doctor, not because I want to help people. I want to be a doctor because I want to make $250,000 a year, and then and have this wife and have this many kids and have
they're
this
still miserable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get on this level right here.
That's the intent.
Let's ask ourselves, what is it that we really want, right? Okay, well, I could probably say pretty comfortably that everybody would love to live in a state of abundance, right, with monetary value. Would like to be able to be in a state of abundance and safety, to where we don't have to worry about any external threats, right? Okay, well, let's get accurate here. Let's all sit and embody free energy technology as if it's already here, because free energy technology alleviates all of that. It frees the world. And so what is it that we're really looking for? What we're trying to do here is to move from a state of separation, which is we think we're all apart from each other and we're in this world of competition and survival and limited resource, to a state of singularity, because where more than one come together in my name, which is I am, right? And we focus together as a collective towards something that actually magnifies all of the things that we could ever imagine wanting, right? That's when it brings the true peace. And so reaching a state of peace and love collectively and silencing our mind off of the desires or wants in the world, right? We then begin to create a collective experience to where it just happens for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that any of us can speak from this experience. Maybe you can, with having like, say, 3, I don't know, like you've got kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like you've got kids, you've got things going on in your life, you've got, ex-wives, you've got a job, It's like, it's like in that chaos, it's like maybe people have so much going on in their lives that they don't even have time to sit in silence because they're worried about other people and taking care of other people.
I can speak for Nick on this. Nick is in a state of silence all the time.
Bro.
I don't know.
And this is a good point. This is a good point.
Making fun of me?
This is a good
not.
This is a good point.
You.
Let's look at this. Hold on. Let's frame what we're seeing and hearing right here. We have one spiritual, energetic being with a specific perception in his mind about another's life, right? And so, although Dustin sees it as chaotic and a lot to deal with, right? The other one has embodied a state of letting go of the need to try to fix what may be seen as chaotic. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't appear chaotic in his world. It appears organized and effortless, and it flows with love in the manner that just shows up for Nick. So Nick can just continue to be the beautiful, silent mind that Nick is.
Did he put the right words in your mouth?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, no, he did. And, you know, I have I heard a story, and I'm probably going to butcher this more than it needs to. I wish I could have rehearsed it a little bit before I talked about it live on the podcast. But so I heard this story that really very much impacted me. I was just watching, deep scrolling a reel, and so the story goes, there's a successful businessman and a guy that kind of looks homeless with his family on the beach, and he goes out and he goes and catches a fish, and he comes back and they make a fire on the beach and they're cooking it. And the guy was obviously a very good fisherman. The guy comes up and was like, "Hey man, you know, what are you doing today?" He's like, "Well, you know, I want to spend this time on the beach with my family, catch fish and drink wine, and you know, and just kind of hang out with them." It's like, "Well, you're good at fishing. Like, why don't you make a business out of it?" And the guy says, like, well, then what would I do after that? It's like, "Well, you can take those fish and take it to the market and sell it." It's like, "Okay, well, what would I do after that?" It's like, "Well, then you can take that money, then you can buy more boats and hire other people to catch these fish for you, so you can, you know, make even more money." It's like,
is that Forrest Gump?
No. I'm just kidding. So it's like, well, what would I do after that? It's like, well, then you can sell the entire business, retire, and then you have a ton of money. It's like, well, what do you do after that? It's like, well, then you can spend time on the beach with your family drinking wine. It's like, well, I'm already doing that right now. Mm-hmm. So the point of the story is you already have the ability to achieve the main goal. And if you think money is going to bring you the peace that you have, you're missing the entire point. Mm-hmm. You can have exactly what you want right now. And once I realize that I get to spend time with Shayna or my kids, I can text my kids anytime. Like, what is money going to do to bring me more freedom than the freedom that I already have? And having that realization to where I already have the perfect life, no matter what I decide to do, I don't have to decide to do anything to achieve something, to have something that I already have right now at this table. Mm-hmm. My goal in life is to be here at this table and have this relationship and help people. I don't need to go make $1 million, even though I've hit all my financial goals in life at some point. It didn't bring me any happiness or peace. This is the most peaceful I've ever been in my entire life, being here with these people, everybody listening to us, being able to FaceTime my kids, being able to have food at home. Even if I don't have food at home, like what do you think is out there that you have to go do to find this inner peace? You already have it. You just have to realize you already have everything you could possibly imagine right now in this moment. There's no other point. It's just society pushing
I guess
bullshit on
for me it's like, well, I'm 38 years old, I'm single, I don't have, you know, any prospects, and I don't have any kids, and I don't have my own house.
Well, you could have been divorced twice, and you could have lost several houses, and so you're already ahead of those people.
I know, but I guess
that's me right here.
Talk to me.
I guess I guess what I'm describing is like there's these little check marks
that life and society tells you that you're supposed to meet,
which your family, which could be the exact reason why life keeps you just outside of achieving that.
But like, what is you getting a woman? Like, you're going to have more peace? I can tell you right now.
It's all right.
Like,
you don't have to give it. See, they do that.
Yeah. No, but like, if you feel like you have to have a woman for what reason? You know, obviously you want obviously you want companionship. Obviously. But companionship, like, look at the divorce rate in America. Companionship does not bring peace. The only marriages that win are when both people are in harmony with themselves, and then that is what attracts other people. So we're talking about with frequencies and stuff. If you're not at a frequency that can be fully harmonious with yourself and be at peace with you being alone, you will never attract somebody that is, like has that.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it will not happen. And
Dude, that's the most passion I've seen out of you in a while.
I love it.
no.
So-
Talking about what you really care about.
So and two, it's learning how to cultivate first the love and wholeness for yourself.
exactly.
That's where it starts, right?
I think a lot of marriage is just people looking for things that they need
Holes to
in
be
other
filled.
in other people, and it also is stems from healing relationships with your family that are unhealed, and you didn't work them out in your childhood. So then you go into your adult life and you find a wife that is like your mom or like your dad, and you try and heal those same things with that other person. And
well,
that's
you're
why a
carrying
lot
on
of
that generational karma.
well, and it's not even that. It's like, it didn't, like, okay, for example, I'll use myself for example. My first husband was emotionally unavailable. My mom was very emotionally unavailable. I literally married my mother with my first husband. With my second husband, I married my dad. He had terrible anxiety, a horrible temper. And when I met both of those people, I felt comfortable with them because it was
a familiar vibration.
It was a familiar vibration. And in that familiarity, I thought, oh, like, this is comfortable. I know how to deal with this.
Comfortable is the killer of motivation.
I can do this, like, whatever,
And so when was it? I guess you married your mom, you married your dad, and then
I met Nick.
Okay. Okay. And so what? I guess you're alluding to the fact that maybe that he's neither of the two.
He is not.
And so
no.
was there something that happened to happen within you to say, okay,
Absolutely. I'm a total people pleaser. I had very critical, judgmental parents, and I did never think that they were really proud of me. I mean, they never told me they were proud of me. There were a lot of things that I looked for validation, and I looked for those things outside of myself. I had them in me all along. I didn't need them from anyone else. And I think when I actually shed those things and shed those relationships and was alone, and I just figured out who I was, and I was okay with me. And when I was okay with me, I didn't need validation from any outside source to be like, you're okay. I was okay.
This is about to get interesting because
Go ahead.
my dad just pulled up.
Oh, God.
shit.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's a good story.
Did he text you?
No,
No?
I don't think so.
I hope your mom's with him.
Yeah, oh gosh. So
All in all,
Yeah.
though, folks, I think we've gotten into some pretty good topics tonight, right? And again, we're going to wash back and forth. There's a lot to go in and a lot to understand.
Good thing you changed the camera.
yeah, I wish I didn't. You go let him in.
All right, we're going to call this one short tonight after 2 hours
Yeah,
already. Mr. Roger Dollins entering the building.
Oh god.
And the missus.
All right. Guys, this is the Diesel Daddies podcast and we are out.
Peace.
Peace.
What's up?